Is it live streaming?
Yeah, it says it is.
Okay. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Pitranomics Thursday Talks. Today is the first Pitranomics Talks in the month of October. It's the last quarter of 2023. It's an excellent time to talk about our subject for the day, which is how to take advantage of financial planning, or it's something about that. I will tell you, I just got back last week from a month away, and it was an amazing month. There's a lot swimming in my head right now. And one of the things that's necessary to implement a lot of the goals is to have proper resources. In particular, we'll discuss financial resources, and we'll talk about the kind of help that you need in order to get those resources. So, consistent with some of the crazy hiccups I've had, I would like to share. Let's see, basic. We'll see where we're going. That's not what I want to share. I want to share something from our presentation. Where is the presentation? There it is. One day I'll figure out how to have that up and ready with Zoom. But anyway, today, let's get into Pitranomics and how it can help you with a multi-strategy approach accomplish what you want to accomplish. So again, a recap of the 10 strategies for Pitranomics. And today, we are going to focus on many of them. We're going to talk about your assessment, how to eat an elephant, which is your roadmap, sending your dollars, which is investing, pay Uncle Sam what he's due, so you mediate your taxes, and get professional help. In particular, we're going to discuss financial planning. So, how a financial planner / advisor can help you. Everybody needs some assistance making their roadmap. Either you have a confidant or a professional or a mentor. If you haven't already accomplished the goal, getting some help always makes that success more likely. So with a financial planner, you do have to start by understanding what it is you want to accomplish. And here are some possibles: college, retirement, dream vacation, business startup. We're talking about those goals that require major financial expenditure. So it's not something most people have sitting around. They have to engage in some sort of planning and then execution to have the financial resources ready at the time they want to execute them. Oops, did I go back? What did I do here? Okay, so steps to getting a great financial plan. So you have goal setting. That previous screen talked about some of the goals you could have. Let's say one of them is education for your kids, or maybe a big wedding or a vacation. That's a goal, and it's got to be important enough for you to commit to it. And all of those types of goals require some sort of major financial expenditure. So you have to catalog what your financial assets are, what they are presently, and what you think they're going to be. And that is straight out of Pitranomics 1. So it's something, this is utilization of multi-Pitranomic strategy at once. The next step, you have to consult with a financial planner, and that planner has to perform some analysis. And this is straight out of Pitranomics Strategy 8, get professional help. Now, the types of help that professional can give you can be tax help, budgeting help, investment help, insurance help. There's so many types of assistance that your financial planner and advisor can give you. So that's why you need that professional helper. And then the second strategy, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? The financial planner helps get you started on your financial roadmap, what it is you need to accomplish, what are your milestones, what to look forward to. And that is making the big plan into steps of little plans, more executable plans, more digestible plans. So here are all the steps once again. Set your goals, catalog your financial assets, and before you go talk to a financial planner, make sure you get all of those things, your bank accounts, your stock portfolio, your insurance investments, your will, because that might be important considering your goal, your latest tax returns, your income statements or your pay stubs, your W-2, so you can show what your bonuses might have been. All of that needs to come together to be ready to consult with the financial planner. And then he's going to take that and put it in his magical financial planning software and perform pretty high level analysis. And then from that, he will have usually, or she, I'm not, Lord, let me not be the one saying it's a man or a woman, but that person will be able to either give you a book or a digital file. And what it basically tells you are the steps needed to execute that plan. The financial planner can also either herself, or part of the team give you some tax planning, which brings you back into Pitranomics strategy 8, because nothing derails a plan like an ill-executed tax strategy. If you make sure you have that really good financial help, that tax help, and a lot of financial, a lot of financial advisors have that in-house, they can help you with the steps that you're trying to take with your investments, mediate the tax hit. You're not avoiding the taxes, you're mediating the taxes. So remember, don't do anything illegal. And again, they can also help with many different types of assets. So they can give you portfolio guidance, they can help you invest in real estate, they can help you invest in stocks, they can help you invest in insurance strategies. One of the things my husband and I looked at, I think last year, they're called LIRPs, and I believe they're life insurance retirement policies. I think that's what that stands for. Very interesting product. I wish maybe that was something we had invested in 20 years ago, but I invite you to ask your financial professional, what are those? I don't advise going to Google, because you need to have that financial relationship with that financial professional so you can share your goals and your particular circumstances, and then they can tailor make a strategy for you. So Google is a good place to get your questions, but make sure they're answered by the professional. Is that there again, or did I not go forward? Okay. One of the things that a financial planner will do is they will perform a big what-if analysis on your roadmap. One of the things that is important to remember, historical performance does not guarantee future performance. So if you use, for example, the number that 20 years of the stock market has performed at a certain level, and then you just say, I'm going to use that same number going forward year over year, that might not be the way your year over year returns. And depending on what your return is in each individual year, it's going to pretty much define your path. So imagine that this little bubble of many colorful paths are all the possibilities to get from point A to point B. And while you might get from, say, $10,000 right now, and you invest steadily over 20 years, the what if analysis is going to tell you What if the market overperforms? What if the market underperforms? What if you have an upturn early and steadily have a downturn? What if you have an immediate downturn and a steady upturn? It might have a downturn, upturn. It is able to generate all of these random scenarios and create basically a possibility map like that, and gives you the percentage, and that's statistically a percentage of the likelihood you will achieve that task. So the higher percentage, the higher that you have the likelihood of achieving that financially. Now, I will tell you, one of the things I was supposed to do was make pretty a spreadsheet so that I could show you some of these things. And I'm sorry, I didn't get to do that. So we might have some boring spreadsheet time, or I might just talk to it. Shamir, make sure you help me stay on track, because sometimes it can get a little pedantic with the spreadsheet. I'm sorry I didn't have time to make it pretty, but the information will still be there. So now it's not really time for questions or feedback. I just want to take a little step back to say, today we're going to do sort of a scenario analysis about college education. And while I'm talking through that, can somebody tell me how much they think, let's say in Texas, how much University of Texas costs for all 4 years of education? Does somebody have an idea of how much that costs? Come on, guys, interact with me, make it fun. And you know what? Now I can't even find, Shamir, I can't even find that spreadsheet. This will be so much fun.
It's probably like $150,000.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. It's going to be, as of today, close to about $140,000 to $150,000. Most people don't have $150,000 sitting around right now, ready to go for your child's education. And let's say your child is 5 years old. So they're really not going to need that money for 13 years. If your child were starting now and you had that $140,000, great. That's what we're trying to get to. And that's if your goal is to send them to a school that costs about the same amount of University of Texas. I will give an example of where we were in 2019 when my daughter decided to attend school. She got a full ride to the University of Texas, which is a great school. And I was so excited. I was like, wow, I don't have to worry about college for her. But where her heart really was attending the University of Chicago. The University of Chicago was about $80,000 a year. It was a little bit more for those 4 years. Thank goodness we had some reserves available, but we had planned to be able to send them to undergrad and to grad school. Well, all of her money went to undergrad. And it was a great education. It was the best thing for her. So I would advise that you have not only a plan to accumulate a certain amount of money, but have some extras built in there, because you never know if the plans will change. And unfortunately, and I have to apologize, this is not how I like to run things, but I cannot even find the spreadsheet that I had created with all of the wonderful numbers. Actually, here it is. Okay. So I found it. It's not pretty. And I'm going to share this. Now, before I get started with this crazy spreadsheet, please ask me any questions if anything seems confusing, because I did not have the time today to make it perfect and legible. So, by the way, taking off for a month and leaving your projects in the hands of people behind you, you have to be so appreciative that the people step behind. It's still like a water hose coming back, but once again, thank you to those that enabled me to at least step away a little bit, get a little bit of a breather. I'll be very thankful. So right now, what this spreadsheet is saying in kind of an ugly way is if you have the $140,000 right now to send your kid to school and they're going in 2023, well, then you're golden, right? But let's say right now your child is 5 and you have the $40,000 to send your kid to University of Texas. The rates for college appreciation costs have been varied from 6.5% to 8% and more. That's year over year appreciation of college costs. The point of that is even if you have the $140,000 right now and your kid's not going to school until 13 years from now, so that's 2036, you have to be able to invest that money so it will grow and at least outpace college education inflation. So let's say it's only 6.5%, okay? That means in 2023, if you have $140,000, then in 2036, when they're ready to go to school, if that appreciation of college expenses is consistent over the next 13 years, then you will need $317,000 by then. And let me take this time to say, having your money sitting in a bank account, not doing anything, earning 0.25%, that won't do it. Even some of these short-term funds that they have where they're saying you can earn 5%, that still won't do it, not on the college education track. If you want to save for college, you've got to get aggressive. If you aren't planning on it, I will say that with the cost of college these days, if there isn't a plan in place and your child wants to go to college, they either have to make sure they get some really good scholarships, which are possible, they can start working on those, or they're going to come out with a lot of debt. And what's really sad is to come out of school and be making like $50,000 a year with $300,000 worth of debt. So let's try to avoid that for the kids. It doesn't mean, what did I do here? That you're going to be able to generate all of it if you haven't started. But some is better than none. Now, here's an alternative, and this is what I know. I actually have no idea what this column is about. I've forgotten it. Does anybody remember? Oh, let's say you have that $140,000, okay? And let's say that instead of, oh my gosh, where is this? No, let's go over here. Let's say, remember we talked about this. Oh, here we go. I'm going over here. I love making these different columns and spreadsheets, so just be patient with me. So let's say you have $140,000 and you're like, I want to grow that as quickly as possible and protect it and sort of protect it in a less volatile way. I would buy a piece of real estate. If I had 13 or so years in the future, I would say, okay, I'm going to buy something that's $140,000 that is going to give me roughly 1% of rent per month. Now, in the Dallas-Fort Worth area right now, getting what's called a 1% deal, where if the cost of the home is $140,000, 1% of that is $1,400, and you get $1,400 a month. That's a little difficult, but it is possible within the state of Texas. So we'll just assume it's possible in the state. Now, a rough rule of thumb is 1/3 of your annual rent goes toward taxes and utilities, more or less, depending if your assessment values are out of line. But a good rule of thumb is 1/3. What I like to do is take like 1/2. Half of your rents go to taxes, insurance, and maintenance and vacancy. So that's why I took that 1% of the 140, which would be 14, and it's basically divided by 2. If we say, all right, between now and 13 years from now, if my kid is 5 and I bought this house, then I'm going to start saving. Over here, we have a property. Let's see. What's going on here? That property is going to also appreciate in value. So let's say it's worth $140,000 now. Every year it's going to appreciate in value. Every month you're going to get rent. This model does not assume any increase in rent between now and the 13 years. That's unlikely, but it's also conservative. The Monte Carlo analysis would be able to match all these up, but I don't have that software anymore. The name of the software I used to use is called NaviPlan. It's an amazing tool. You can learn to use it yourself. I still advise seeking a professional at first. And then if you just get really, really, really comfortable, then you can do your year-over-year step changes yourself. So if we go all the way down to 156 months, and you've invested this $140,000 that's gotten you $700 a month rent, then as long as you're socking that money away, you have collected $109,000 worth of rent. And that's being pretty conservative because half of it's going for what it takes to carry the property. And then let's say if we look at this formula, we've got a 3% rate of improvement, appreciation for homes year over year. Sometimes they're more, sometimes they're less. But at the end of the 13 years or the 156 months, you have a property that's worth about $206,000. What I did, another rule of thumb, was I said, okay, if you sell a house and you use realtors and you're paying title insurance, you're going to net about 92% of the cost of the value of your home or the sale price of your home. So that's $190,000. Let's say what you decide to do is keep this rent accumulating and then, of course, also sell the house. That means at the end of that 13 years, you have a little over $300,000 available. This is a very real, very probable scenario. If you have the $140,000 now that you think it's going to take you to pay for your child's education, and it gives you freedom. One thing I want to put in your ear, there are or were these 529 plans that have some interesting strategies. And this is why you need to talk to a professional. It was my hope to have an actual professional come on. He was not available, but we'll get him another time. He's very busy. He's very good. Not always available at 6 p.m., but he did say he was going to be on one of these soon. And his name is Steve Ingro with Beacon Financial, and he is just awesome. So anyway, this is a strategy. Your financial planner could say, hey, if you have this $140,000 for one kid, and you want to invest in real estate, like, okay, why don't you do that? Buy this type of property that gets this type of return, and then stay consistent over the 13 years. Now you have a lump sum. But what if you don't have it? What if you don't have a lump sum of $140,000? That's why you need that professional, because then it becomes a very aggressive investing strategy. So it could be stocks, it could be currency, it could be crypto, it could be a number of things. But no one person usually no one person is an expert in all the many different types of real estate or investment strategies there are. So take your time, find a team that can not only provide you advice at developing your roadmap, but make sure they help you follow through with finding the people who can help you accomplish it if that's not who they are. So for example, our investment advisor, Mr. Ingro, he does the stocks and the bonds and all that, emerging markets. Got to tell you, that's not my thing. I don't really understand it. It's this big behemoth of wonder and uncertainty. I don't really understand it. But about 10 years ago, he was like, you should invest in real estate. I was like, okay, I'll do that. And he was like, get some education first. I was like, okay, I'll do that. And then he gave me a series of suggestions past that. So it's really great that we have this investment advisor that handles our stock portfolio, but has also been a mentor in real estate. By the way, if we take this as just a goal to accomplish, let's say it's not college. And I'm going to put another number here. I'm going to say, let's say you want to buy a very expensive car. Let's say it's $140,000. Let's say that. Instead of spending the $140,000 on an asset that will depreciate, why don't you go ahead and get a loan on that asset and put your money into a piece of real estate? And then over maybe the 6 or 7 years it takes you to pay off the car, you have a contribution. If you buy a $140,000 car, your payment's going to be about $1,800. So you're not completely covering. But the thing is, you buy the house, you've got $700 worth of contribution to your car payment each month. But when you retire the car, you still have the asset. You still have an asset worth even more than $140,000 you started with, and it is still generating income. So one of the ways to fund these big goals is to put in place an income producing asset that not only satisfies, or at least helps satisfy, the financial requirement to execute that goal, but keeps going into perpetuity as long as you maintain that asset and keep it income flowing. That can now become the financial resources for a second goal. Say the first one is, I want to pay for college. You still have this income producing asset. It can help fund retirement, or it pays for college and then it pays for retirement, and then it becomes part of your legacy. Shamir, if I can get you to share that one screen that talks about the money going out in all the myriad of different ways, and I'll stop sharing. But here is what's exciting about having a really good financial planner. They're going to be able to come up with ways you haven't thought about. They're going to be able to figure out how to make it possible with a high degree of certainty. And your relationship year over year will help you stay motivated. I can talk, yes. Stay motivated to execute it. And then if something happens, let's say like COVID, 2020, we took a big hit on our portfolio, but we were able to do some major correcting and get back on track because we have excellent financial advice. I cannot stress how important excellent financial advice is. But look at the possibilities. These are just what I've come up with. Maybe you guys have some other financial goals or goals that need financial resources. But here, maybe your goal is to pay for a huge wedding for your daughter. That's not mine, but it could be somebody's. Maybe you want to leave behind money for philanthropy. Or maybe you just want to do as much as you can to leave a large trust fund from your kids. Or some people, and I know several families like this, they have kids that will need some kind of dependent care. So that's in their plan to make sure the financial resources are there to care for that child that will always need some kind of care. Or maybe you want a second home. Maybe you have a lovely home here in DFW, but you'd like to have one on a lake somewhere, or on a lake, on a beach, in the mountains, by a ski resort. And maybe that's it. And what's great about that is you can have that second home. It can be your escape, but it could also be income producing. So there you go. Or maybe what you'd like to do is, after 30 years in corporate, you'd like to start your own business. So you have the money to get you started. Or maybe your goal is a dream vacation where you take a year and you travel around the world and you visit all, 383 countries or however many there are. Don't hold me to that number. I just threw it out. Or the standard retirement and college. Whatever it is you want to accomplish, when you walk into that financial planner's office, have some details around that. So when Andre and I walked in, we were like, state school. We want to pay for state school. We want to pay for 4 years. And these are the years we have to do it. These are our 2 kids. It just turned out our investments did a little bit better than we expected. For that, we were very grateful, but we didn't plan on it. We planned on state school. We told them state school, that's what you get. Anything else, you got to come up with the additional money. So that's pretty much it. You can take that off if you want to, Shamir, or we can leave it. That is my presentation for today. Let's get into some discussion about any questions you've had about what I've said. By the way, it's good to see y'all. Thank you for joining.
Welcome back.
You appreciate it. Look how shiny I look. Okay. So thank you. How have you been?
Doing well.
Okay. Do you have any questions or input? I hope you do, because I always love your input.
Well, I mean, I like your presentation because you definitely have to have a strategy or a plan to, especially if you're looking at doing some type of investing, or again, looking towards your future when you come to retirement, when the time comes for you to retirement, have something put in place and start doing something like now. So when you get that age of retirement, the transition will be a lot smoother.
One of the things that is awesome about retirement, when you're doing that planning, when you're You can decide kind of what you're looking for. And most people who are working people, not the ones that have vast amounts of resources, they want to be comfortable. They want low maintenance homes. They want to be able to travel. They want to have money for healthcare, and they want to take advantage of the experiences that being retired offer. So there's a book, I'm going to have to look it up. I think it's something called How to Retire Wild and Crazy. I know I ordered it on Amazon. Let me look it up. But it's a great book. And it says, you know what? You need to think about more than just the money when it comes to retirement. What are you going to do? Are you going to drive your spouse crazy? Are you going to just sit in front of the TV? Are you taking care of your health so you can enjoy your retirement? Are you developing the resources so you'll have people to talk to? It's a whole holistic way. And in fact, we got it from our investment advisor. You know, think about not just financially what your retirement is going to look like, but what do you plan to enjoy it? Will there be people? Will there be connection? And my time away in the Czech Republic made me know I want connection. I want to spend time with people that I love and I enjoy, and we have laughter and we relax. So we don't need as much financially because I'm looking for the relationships. I'm looking for the people. That's what I want to have in my retirement. Something to challenge my mind, to keep it from going foggy, and people to hang around and enjoy and love. So I have to ask you, Evan, if you could tell me, what does your retirement look like?
Well, my retirement looked like it's lonely at the top because when you retire, there's nobody to talk to.
Exactly. Exactly. And I don't want to be lonely.
Yeah, I mean, it can be that way, especially, it kind of reminds me of like, you remember when you left high school
Mhm.
and get to go on to to live your life, and you leave all your friends and your social circle and stuff like that you developed while you was in high school, unless you stayed in touch with some of the people that you still remember in high school. You left and everything changed. You
Yeah.
know, or when you left home, everything changed. So it's kind of like you stepped out there, but you was kind of like alone.
Yep.
Well,
Until you built the next circle, right?
right. Well, retirement is kind of like that too.
It is.
When you step into retirement, I'm not retired. I'm semi-retired, but I put some things in place that makes things a little bit easier for me, like getting my home paid off and a few other things, debt out of the way, so it makes things a little bit simpler. But I mean, I still stay busy doing other things. But the thing is that yeah, it kind of get it can get a little lonely unless you build some other social circles, or other people to be around, or friends that to be around, or people that are like-minded, like you,
Exactly.
that you want to do.
Exactly. And so one of the things that happened last month is some friends met me in the Czech Republic for a fun weekend. So one was a couple that my husband and I went to grad school with. Another was a couple that I met actually through another friend. So the couple that I went to grad school with, they live in Switzerland. The other couple, they came over from England. And this other girlfriend, she came from California. And so there were 6 of us, and we met up at my friend Adam's house, who Adam is a young man. So he had us crazy people taking up his house, and he was so gracious. But we sat around and we talked, we laughed, we joked, we talked about marriage, we talked about life, we talked about travel. All of us thought, you know what, this is amazing. We should maybe look into visiting someone every year, or maybe even more than that. Stay in touch. That was like networking, masterminding, bonding all at once. I want me some more of that. I was so excited. Shamir, you want to share what retirement looks like for you? You have any ideas?
It's a little scary for me right now. Yeah. I don't know what else to say. I'm trying my best to make it a better outlook, but right now it's not. The outlook doesn't look great.
Doesn't look great? Well, you know what? I want to share a story just real quick. When my husband and I had very young kids, Jacqueline was probably just over 2. Jacob was a few months old. And we'd met this couple in the park. This was in Plano. And I'm sure I've told this story before, but I just fell into conversation with them. And so I asked them, what's the secret of a long-lasting marriage? Because I will tell you this, some of the rockiest times in the marriage are when you have 2 kids in diapers. It is hard to stay focused on yourself and your spouse. It's just like kids, you're frazzled. So I asked them, and that couple, they were very nice. They said, well, it's communication, respect, and taking care of your finances. Because he said, nothing kills a good marriage like financial stress. I was like, okay. And he recommended 2 books. One was The Millionaire Next Door, and the other one was not the Cash Flow Quadrant, but what's the one before it?
Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Thank you. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And then he also recommended his investment advisor. So Andre and I, with our 2 little kids, were so excited. Ooh, we're going to go over there and meet with this investment advisor, only to be told by her that, yeah, you aren't really our type of client. You don't have enough money. We only deal with people that have disposable assets of X, Y, Z, and more. And I was like, well, how do we get there if we don't have this good financial help that gets us there? And so that's the first step. When you don't already have a nice pool of money, it's hard to get access to the great financial help that gets you there. So it's like a paradox. Okay.
Actually going to be my question was, how do you find the right financial planner or advisor for you, depending on your situation?
Exactly. And so, but this financial planner that basically was like, we won't take you peasants. She did recommend someone that was very good at giving us fee-based advice. So she wasn't making her money on managing our assets because we didn't have much of that. She made her money on offering advice by the hour. And that was how we started. We paid for an hour or 2 or 3, and then we kept going. We implemented and we came back. And after a few years, she was like, you guys are a bit ahead of me. What she can provide. She said we were great. I mean, we diligently tried to do everything we could to save, and start building our net worth. It was always net worth building. And then by the time we were basically acceptable to that first financial advisor, we didn't want her anymore. We wanted somebody else. We needed something a little different. So I am very pleased with who I use. I am not sure, honestly, what his minimum portfolio requirement is, but one of the things that Pitranomics should be able to step in is, okay, between now and then, how do we get there? What do we do to get there? What are the steps? I love masterminding with people because not everybody is going to, for one thing, have the partner to work with. I had a husband that was like-minded. It does help to have that. And so now, I mean, we're not Rockefellers. Don't get me wrong. I'm not up here saying, Elon Musk and I, we were discussing jet streams. That's not what it is, but that's not what I want. I don't need that. I just need to know I'm not going to starve. And I have some money maybe to visit grandchildren when they come, and wanted to see the kids through school and out the door and off the payroll. And, my goals are pretty simple. At least they seem that way to me. So now I have the opportunity to share these things. So how do you get there? How do you get from not having any money, which was us? I mean, none. We had maybe a couple $1,000s, which we thought was a nice little thing after we had paid for our house and paid for our cars and gotten all our appliances. In retrospect, we should have financed, lower down payment, finance the cars, finance the equipment, and started saving. But, we didn't have anybody talking to us then. The one thing you want to start considering is the highest use of your money. So high octane debt, you need to pay down, because very rarely is your investment going to outpace that unless you've become really aggressive. Make sure you have a saving plan or emergency plan or a rainy day plan, whatever you call it. So in case there's some disruption, you can survive and you don't have a cash flow crisis. Doesn't mean you won't have a cash flow crisis. It's like just a little buffer. Oh, we have a question. Let me see if I can read that. Can you talk about, in general, what's a good amount of cash to have in the bank and to have working for you? First, for people who are below average, average, and above average. Okay, so that's a very good question. It's going to have multiple parts. If you are a fairly conservative investor and you're like, I'm okay with 5% a year. Let me see if I can share and go back to that spreadsheet. Share here. Where was I? Spreadsheet. There we go. And I'll put my glasses on and I'll go over here. So start fresh. So let's say the amount of money you need for your retirement is going to be about $80,000 a year. That's actually pretty lofty. Let me think. If I had a home that cost me $2,036 about a year, and then groceries, probably make do on, as long as I'm not planning to work at all, and have let's say I want to make $60,000 a year in my retirement. A rough rule of thumb for a conservative investor might be about 5%, right? Now keep in mind, that's just barely above the rule of thumb cost of inflation. And if we take inflation at about 3%, so you're going to need to make the sum of these 8% a year on your portfolio to give you that 5%, and you'll see what I'm going to do with this 5% to live on, and your cost of inflation. So you take this $60,000 right here, and you divide it by this percent right here. So you need $750 in the bank, $750,000, I'm not sure what I said, to generate $60,000 a year, which is 5% of that, and keep pace with inflation. But you should be adopting multiple streams. So those of you that have worked in some kind of corporate job, you do have some Social Security benefits. I just found out I have a few Social Security benefits, and I haven't worked at a job in corporate since the 90s, but I got a little bit. I also have a little piece of a pension that's probably going to make about $980 a month starting next year when I turn 60. So let's say you have Social Security. So this is $75 a year. Let's break it down into a month. That's not right. What did I do wrong? I must have done, no, I did that wrong. Okay. So let's say you need that $60,000 a year, and we're going to divide it by 12. That's $5,000 a month. So let's say my nice little accomplishments are what is I'm trying to say? Contribution of my pension, which is like, I think $980 a month. And let's say on Social Security, I make like $550 a month. So now I have reduced that. Let's just keep going. I've reduced that by that. So that means I only have $3,470 left to come up with. So don't discount your pensions and your security. Let's say that you have that one house that's making $700 a month. Remember that one I told you about that you used maybe to get your kid into college and you still have it in retirement? That's another $700. Okay, so you take this number, oops, and you reduce it by another 700. And sorry, this spreadsheet is so random, but so that's $22.70 a month. And let's say you want to be a Walmart greeter because you want to get out of the house 20 hours a week. And let's say not 52 weeks a year, let's say 40 weeks a year. So we'll do the 40 weeks a year times the 20 hours a week. And what's a good salary? $7? I don't know. $7, $8? I have no idea. Let's just make it 8. That can't be right. 40, that's a year. Okay. So let's do 12. They get paid 12. Okay. So that's another $9,600 a year. If you do it for 40 weeks a year, and then we'll divide that by 12. Hold on. Yeah. That's another $800 a month, right? So one of the other things I like to talk about is multiple streams of income. And maybe I will have a talk about that. What are some multiple streams of income that you can start right now that will help you in retirement? How do you have to hustle right now in order to put that in place so you'll have it when you're older? So look into any possible pensions, look into your Social Security. If you have any real estate, look and see if you can make that an investment possibility in retirement. If you are someone that owns a house right now and you're 40 years old and you're enjoying your 4-bedroom, 2-bath house, that's great. In retirement, you might not want to live in that. In retirement, maybe that becomes an income producing asset for you. And maybe what you want to do, I mean, I could see doing this at least for a year or two, is each month visit 12 friends and mooch off a friend a month. I mean, of course you contribute, but it's not as much a house. Get creative with what you want to do. And let me just look up the name of that book. Hold on just a minute. I want to look that up because I do want to share that. Because I thought it was great that you learned to talk about more than just the financial part of retirement. Because if you focus on the experiences you want, you can narrow down the financial requirement. But a lot of people will just say, pie in the sky, I want $150,000 a year. But you might not need that much to have the experience that you want, to be with the people that you want, to connect with them. Let's see if I can find that book. Give me a minute. It's something about retiring wild. Let's see, how to retire wild. How to retire happy, free, and wild. I'm going to put the link in here for this book. My computer slow? There we go. So I'm going to put this in the chat and you guys can grab that. But I think it's a good read. It's not, fancy literature, but it starts you thinking, what is it I want to do in retirement? So now back to the question that was asked, what's a good amount of cash? Well, look at how risky of it, or how much risk you're willing to take of it as an investor, or how much you are risk averse. So if you're pretty risk averse, say it's 5%, and at that roughly 3% cost of inflation, and keep track of what the latest figures are showing. If inflation is showing like, hey, we anticipate it being 3.5%, 3.25%, use that number. So, and then maybe if you're, a little bit less risk averse, maybe you'll go up to 7. You're willing to go into assets that are a little less steady, a little less predictable. Or maybe if you're really wild and crazy, you're like, hey, I think I can do 9%. But for us, we're going to stick to around that 5 + 3 and make it 8%. And that's going to be the amount of money we need to fuel our retirement. Now, the other thing, when you're talking to your financial advisor, here's the thing, if you've got a pot of money sitting there and you're making money on it, you have to take advantage of the advice on what your tax liability will be, so you'll know what you can actually spend. Is that $60,000 what you can do given your present tax rate? Or is that what you need after tax? In which case you need to go through some estimation of what your tax liability will be. Again, that professional help, and then up that money accordingly so that you're making enough to get that $60,000 you need after tax. But like Eben said, he's paying off his house. Once you paid off your house, well, you got to cover maintenance, insurance, and taxes, right? And then there's always going to be something unexpected. You can't expect to live in a house for 30 years and not have to pay for a major expenditure like HVAC, or maybe some plumbing work, or maybe some electrical. We'll have a storm in Texas, so you'd have to pay for the deductible of a new roof, plus any incidentals that the insurance isn't going to cover. And all of these things can be helped by a really good financial planner advisor. These are the kinds of things I'll come up with. However, we can have a work session. I can come up with most of them. I'm not a financial advisor, but I've probably had every expense from the house known to man, so I can help there. Right now, I have in my house this weird bump. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's foundation. I don't know if it's plumbing. It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen. And I keep tripping over it. I'm going to have to get that fixed. Not tonight, but sometime. You got to plan for those kind of unexpected things. So if we go back, oh, hold on, let me share. If we go back to the spreadsheet, my rough and dirty spreadsheet, which is here, okay. So right here, I'm saying, okay, 60,000 a year. Let's say you're like, I don't want to live on $60,000 a year. I want to live on the equivalent of $150,000 a year. Now, keep in mind, when you're not working, when you're not going to work and driving and not doing the stuff that you can do, like clean your own house or whatever, because you're busy working the grind, you don't need as much money as you make. Unless, of course, you want to live the luxurious life of travel. But either way, be realistic with what you want to do. And then that number right there, if you are a conservative person and you're trying to account for the cost of rising, the incremental increase of costs, and you want to live on $150,000 a year, then you have $1.875 million to accumulate in the bank in order to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, my friend Adam, he's got a lovely house. His family has a vineyard, so he doesn't really have to cover much in the way of housing. He said, I should be able to live on $1,500 a month, $2,000 a month. Let's say $2,000 a month in the Czech Republic, as long as you don't have to pay for housing, which has gotten crazy. Is that 2,000 times 12? And don't forget, if you're planning to retire in a place that has universal health insurance, universal long-term care, those are big expenses that you need to plan for, particularly if you have a family history of lack of health. I just saw a TikTok today where the woman's saying most people think they will live to the end of their lives and all of a sudden they'll be taken out in the middle of the night with a smile on their face. But for most of us, we're going to live many of our last few years sick.
And maybe alone.
And maybe alone. So what's going to pay for that? In fact, if you think you're going to be old, sick, and alone, start making some really good friends right now.
Yeah.
That, you know, of comparable age. So you can say, hey, you and me, let's just be companions. Let's agree to take care of each other so we're not alone and sick and dying. I'll make sure you get your pills and you get my I don't know, menthol cream or whatever. Or maybe, you know, try and do something like the Golden Girls. That looked kind of great, except for it's not usually the best situation to have 4 unrelated women in a house. So it was a nice show and it was funny. Can you repeat it? I don't know. It'd be cool if you could, because I think it would be a shame to grow old alone.
But it's happening more and more nowadays.
It is happening more and more. But those of us right now that I can see, we're young enough to maybe think, okay, let's make some plans. have some plans and some backup plans and some tertiary plans. Because, you know, a lot of women who are married have to face the very large probability of becoming a widow. Doesn't mean that the men won't become widowers, but statistics are that the women are going to be alone. And right now, my mother-in-law, whose husband passed, I think, 11 years ago, she's in the Czech Republic living in her place alone. I don't want her to be alone anymore. I want to hang out and see her beautiful smile and have her cook some amazing food. And we, you know, I want her to have a sweet life and I want to enjoy her. All of these questions, talk to a financial advisor about, you know, what it takes to finance them, but start putting some thought into what that life is actually going to be like. Like I said, it didn't cost a lot of money for us to have that weekend. And, you know, the flights to get in from the various places to the Czech Republic were quite cheap. We got together for a weekend. I think we went to one restaurant. The rest of the time we cooked as a group. That was great. If that is my monthly vacation, I can do that. Meet at a friend's house, we cook, we laugh. That would give me enough joy to last the rest of the month when they weren't there. And by the way, I also claimed my friend David, who moved from Colorado to be down here. I don't know where you think you're going, but you're going where I'm going.
I got a question.
You crazy.
I claimed you.
You crazy.
Yes, what's the question, please?
How big was your group?
There were 6 of us staying at my friend Adam's house, and Adam graciously just left his house for us.
Awesome. That's good to have friends like that.
It was. And he was like, oh my gosh, do I need to cook for you and do this for you? And I was like, we are all grown people. We aren't 6 of your 20-something friends. We know how to take care of ourselves. And what was really cool, we could just go out to the garden because they have a vineyard and get some grapes for breakfast. And then he had some fruit trees and he had a garden with like fresh basil, fresh thyme. I was like, oh, I really want to put some rosemary on this pork. And he was like, just a minute. He ran down. I was like, what all you got down there?
Awesome.
It was so much fun. One day we made pasta with the fresh basil and I think it was fresh garlic too. And his parents have chickens, so we had fresh eggs for breakfast. And some of the other friends drank wine that is made at that vineyard. So, I mean, if you can collaborate, not everybody has to do everything on your own. Honestly, how many people are on this call? 5 of us? The 5 of us could decide, let's do this. And in 5 years, this is where we're going to be. I've already claimed David though. So, you know.
Pretty good idea. Oh, that's a pretty good idea. I like it.
Yeah, find people that you like, that you can grow with and say, you know what, let's form a group and this is what we're going to do. We're going to have a bit of a cooperative. That's the personal, non-financial side, but you have to know what that is so you know how much money you need. And nothing makes you age fast like loneliness.
Oh, that's
Let's not be lonely. Evan, we're going to have to meet and see if we, you know, want to hang out. And I mean, I feel like we vibe really well on Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I got to make sure you like chocolate. You like chocolate?
Yes, I do, but I have to just kind of stay away from it a little bit.
I do get that, but you do enjoy it, right?
So does she. She needs to stay away from it.
Yeah.
Oh, don't start talking about what we need to stay away from.
I know once upon a time when I used to get out there, I could drop it like it's hot. But now, if I try to drop it like it's hot, they'll call me kaboom. So
I can drop it like it's tepid.
I can't do all that dropping no more. I'll be tearing up people's floors and stuff.
But like I said, it was we sat around and we had such laughter. And what was a bonding experience for us on this trip, and it shouldn't have been, keep in mind, everybody that came to visit, they didn't know each other, they just knew me.
Okay.
And then we got pulled over by the popo. And that was a bonding experience.
That's awesome.
And now we're all like, oh my gosh, we've met great friends. Is there another thing that I missed? Oh, there's a new message. What is this new message? Okay. Sorry, I had a call, probably missed. Okay, thank you. You guys are keeping up there. So in preparation for what you want, it can't just be about the money. It has to be about the people, and it has to be about the experience. So whatever those goals are, let's make sure we're taking into account all of that so you can tailor your plan accordingly. By the way, if my husband and I decide to buy a house in the Czech Republic, there'll be plenty of room for us to scrunch down. And I don't know if we'll have a garden. We've got to have somebody care for it, because I don't think I'm going to be out there weeding. But, I'll be more than happy to set up a table and we all collectively make a dinner and just enjoy laughter. I think that would be the best thing.
Oh.
So anyway, any questions, any last comments? I always enjoy the interaction.
Yes. I know we're going to cover finances again at some point, but when we do, can you go over a little bit about the capital gain taxes? When you earn so much money, you hit that capital gain, and how do you deal with that?
You know what? Because I'm not a tax professional, we should probably hold that question to the next time we have the tax professional speaker.
Okay.
But my understanding is there's long-term capital gains and there's short-term. Short-term are, of course, higher than long-term. And I don't think there's very many ways to offset your capital gains except with capital losses. Active income, you can offset with current expenses. This is not financial advice or tax advice, but this is just my understanding.
Okay.
So if you have, for example, if we look at this, where were we? Where was that thing? Was this it? Yeah, hold on. Let's say if we want to have the $60,000 a year, right? And let's say the long-term capital gains tax that's on redemptions is 20%. Well, you're going to reduce this by 20%. Now, there is a difference between liquidating the asset and the long-term capital gains and the residuals from that asset. And I don't really know all of those things. All I know is I ask those questions of my tax professional.
Okay.
And so if we go back, hey, Shamir, if you don't mind, put up all those strategies to Pitranomics again. I'll stop sharing. So the important thing to remember is you have to have your goals in place, right? And your roadmap. And the people who can help you create your roadmap are the professionals that can give you that professional help. And those can help you mediate your strategies and keeping the right people in your lifeboat. Because what you don't want is to have someone that comes in and cheats you and steals your hard-earned life savings. And this is another thing that's happening. There are a lot of scams happening with older people right now. You don't need to be alone. You need somebody with all of their marbles in place. So they're like, don't answer that phone. Don't give them that information. They're just scammers. You need those people. And you need some kind of protection for your hard-earned assets. So you want to build your fortress. Maybe you have a kind of trust that dispenses only a certain amount. So no matter, let's say you lose everything for the year, you haven't lost everything. There are a lot of older people that have their lump sum savings in the bank. And then some scammer comes along and they get all of it and it's gone and they don't have anything. And I have heard of at least 3 such cases in the past 2 years from people I know of personally. It is heartbreaking. So how to eat an elephant, that's making sure that whatever that lofty goal is, you're heading there in the right direction. And there's no way you're going to be able to fund those huge deals without investing. So first you have to snack, not use all of your money so you can accumulate. That's the snack now piece later. And then you have to send that accumulation of dollars out so it can work and bring back friends. And you have to live a lifestyle that's not all about comparing to the people who are next door, because you don't need to worry about them. They're not doing what you're doing. I don't know what they're doing, but they're not doing what you're doing. Let the Joneses overspend and have no money and no friends in retirement. You're going to make different plans. So the thing about this strategy is you can keep, it's iterative. You can spot and jump around. You can add a bunch in a particular, you can have multiple strategies in one endeavor at the same time. This is just the framework. It's not rigid. It's as fluid as it needs to be for you to accomplish your goals. Okay, let's take that off here. Remember, it's as fluid as you need it to be. So anyway, that is all I have for tonight. Thank you so much for the interaction. Thank you for joining me. I always love it when you do. If you're watching me on YouTube, and even if you're not, you guys go to my channel, like, comment, and subscribe, and put notifications on. Do all that stuff for me. And invite your friends to come, because, this is going to be the last thing I say. A lot of us are afraid, overwhelmed, and then we stay alone and we don't share that we're afraid and overwhelmed, and nothing gets better. But anything you're feeling, somebody else has also felt. And once you let it out there, it loses some of its power to hurt you and cause you shame. Release the shame, go out there, find your tribe. Let's build the community that sustains us now and in the future. That is the reason for all of this. And I've enjoyed y'all. Thank you so much. And you have a great night, okay?
Thank you. Good night.